passage of 5 years. 5 years had passed since Kodo and Ruta first embarked on their rigorous journey within the Potential Admiralty Committee, PAC, a period marked by relentless training, grueling challenges, and an unyielding commitment to excellence. The intervening years had transformed them from ambitious young candidates into seasoned contenders, each with their eyes fixed on the ultimate prize, the coveted title of Admiral, the highest military honor within their primate civilization. Now, at the age of 30, Kodo and Ruta found themselves standing at a critical juncture in their lives. In their society, where gorillas typically live to the age of 60, their entrance into the prime of adulthood was a significant milestone. This was a stark contrast to the human world, where gorillas often saw their lives cut short by natural and unnatural forces before reaching the age of 40. For Kodo and Ruta, this moment was not just a testament to their survival, but a celebration of their hard-earned wisdom, strength, and resilience. The final test of their mettle, the tripartite competition, had arrived. This was the pinnacle of their 5-year journey, a series of 3 intense trials that would determine which among the final quartet of candidates would ascend to the highest echelons of military leadership. The competition was not merely a test of skill, but a crucible that would forge the future leaders of their civilization. The first test, the political arena. The leadership trials had begun, and the first test was politics, arguably the most cerebral and nuanced of the 3. This test was designed to measure not just the candidates' knowledge of governance and diplomacy, but also their ability to think critically, navigate complex scenarios, and make decisions that could shape the future of their civilization. Kodo, Ruta, Kana, and Sensi, the final 4 candidates standing after 5 years of relentless training, now found themselves in the political arena, where their mettle would be tested like never before. The setting. The setting for the political test was a grand chamber within the Wereline University, a place steeped in history and tradition. The walls were adorned with portraits of past leaders and legendary figures who had shaped the destiny of their civilization. At the center of the chamber was a circular table, around which the 4 candidates now sat, each with a tablet in front of them displaying the details of the scenario they were about to tackle. Seated across from them were the 3 jurors, each representing a key ministry: defense, foreign affairs, and strategy. These were individuals of immense influence and experience, chosen for their deep understanding of the political landscape and their ability to assess the candidates with a critical eye. The atmosphere in the room was tense, charged with the weight of the task at hand. The scenario presented to the candidates was one that mirrored the real-world challenges they would face as future leaders. It involved a delicate diplomatic crisis with a neighboring territory, one that had the potential to escalate into full-scale conflict if not handled with care. The candidates were tasked with formulating and presenting a comprehensive strategy to address the situation, considering factors such as diplomacy, military preparedness, economic implications, and long-term regional stability. The crisis scenario. The neighboring territory, known as Helium, was a resource-rich region with a history of tension and rivalry with Kodo and Ruta's homeland. Recently, Helium had made aggressive moves to assert control over a disputed border region, deploying troops and setting up military installations. This had led to a standoff, with both sides mobilizing forces and preparing for the possibility of war. The candidates were expected to navigate this complex situation, proposing a solution that would either defuse the crisis through diplomacy or prepare for a military confrontation if necessary. The jurors would be evaluating their ability to balance these competing demands, as well as their understanding of the broader political implications. Kodo's approach. Kodo was the first to speak, his calm and measured demeanor immediately capturing the attention of the jurors. He began by acknowledging the gravity of the situation and the potential consequences of a misstep. The key to resolving this crisis, Kodo said, lies in understanding Helium's motivations. They are acting out of a perceived need to secure their resources and assert their dominance in the region. However, we must also recognize that they are not looking for a full-scale war, they are testing our resolve. Kodo proposed a dual approach that combined diplomacy with a show of strength. He suggested initiating high-level diplomatic talks with Helium's leadership, offering them a mutually beneficial resource-sharing agreement for the disputed region. This agreement would be presented as a win-win solution, allowing Helium to save face while securing a share of the resources they coveted. However, Kodo also emphasized the importance of backing these negotiations with a credible military deterrent. We should mobilize our forces and conduct joint military exercises near the border, he explained. This will send a clear message to Helium that while we are committed to peace, we are fully prepared to defend our interests if necessary. Kodo's strategy was designed to create a balanced outcome, one that preserved peace while demonstrating strength. He argued that by offering a diplomatic solution backed by military preparedness, they could avoid war while maintaining their strategic advantage. The jurors nodded in approval as Kodo concluded his presentation. His approach was thorough and well-considered, reflecting his ability to think strategically and act with both prudence and resolve. Ruda's approach, in contrast, was more aggressive and uncompromising. He began by critiquing Kodo's proposal, arguing that diplomacy in this case would be seen as a sign of weakness by Helium's leadership. Helium is not interested in diplomacy, Ruda stated firmly. They are pushing to see how far they can go before we push back. Offering them a resource-sharing agreement will only embolden them to make further demands in the future. We must show them that we will not tolerate their aggression. Ruda proposed a swift and decisive military response. He suggested launching a preemptive strike on Helium's newly established military installations in the disputed region, crippling their ability to wage war before they could escalate the conflict. We should deploy our most advanced units to execute a precision strike, Ruda explained. This will demonstrate our superiority and force Helium to the negotiating table on our terms. Once they see that we are willing to take decisive action, they will have no choice but to back down and accept our conditions. Ruda's strategy was bold and forceful, reflecting his belief in the power of overwhelming strength. He argued that by taking the initiative, they could end the crisis quickly and assert their dominance in the region, securing a long-term strategic advantage. The jurors listened intently to Ruda's presentation, their expressions a mix of intrigue and concern. While his proposal was certainly effective in demonstrating resolve, it also carried significant risks that could lead to an escalation of the conflict rather than its resolution. Kana's approach. Kana, known for his sharp intellect and diplomatic acumen, took a more nuanced approach. He began by acknowledging the strengths and weaknesses of both Kodo's and Ruda's strategies before presenting his own. The situation in Helium is complex, Kana said, his voice thoughtful and measured. While I agree with Kodo that diplomacy should be our first course of action, I also recognize Ruda's point that we cannot afford to appear weak. However, there is a third option that we should consider, one that leverages our strategic alliances and economic power. Kana proposed a multifaceted approach that combined diplomacy, economic pressure, and covert operations. He suggested working closely with allied territories to impose economic sanctions on Helium, targeting their key industries and limiting their access to critical resources. At the same time, Kana continued, we should engage in covert operations to disrupt Helium's military supply chains and sow discord among their leadership. By weakening their economy and destabilizing their internal politics, we can force them to reconsider their aggressive stance without the need for open conflict. Kana also proposed using back-channel diplomacy to communicate with moderate elements within Helium's government, offering them incentives to push for a peaceful resolution. By applying pressure on multiple fronts, Kana explained, we can achieve our objectives while minimizing the risk of war. Helium will be forced to negotiate, not because they fear our military might, but because they cannot sustain their aggression in the face of internal and external pressures. The jurors were visibly impressed by Kana's comprehensive and multifaceted strategy. His ability to think outside the box and leverage a wide range of tools demonstrated a deep understanding of the complexities of modern diplomacy and statecraft. Sensi's approach. Sensi, the final candidate to present, was known for his innovative thinking and ability to anticipate the long-term consequences of political decisions. He began by emphasizing the importance of understanding the broader geopolitical context of the crisis. The situation with Helium is not just a bilateral issue, Sensi explained. It is part of a larger regional dynamic that involves multiple players. We must consider the impact of our actions on our alliances and on the stability of the region as a whole. Ascendancy proposed a strategy that focused on building a coalition of regional powers to collectively address the helium crisis. He suggested reaching out to neighboring territories that had a vested interest in preventing helium's expansion and forming a united front against their aggression. By forming a coalition, Ascendancy argued, we can present helium with a unified stance that they cannot easily ignore. This coalition would not only serve as a deterrent to further aggression, but also provide a framework for a negotiated settlement that addresses the concerns of all parties involved. Ascendancy's strategy also included a long-term plan for regional stability, proposing the establishment of a regional security council that would oversee disputes and prevent future conflicts. In addition to resolving the immediate crisis, Ascendancy concluded, we must also work to prevent similar situations from arising in the future. By establishing a regional security framework, we can ensure that disputes are addressed through dialogue and cooperation rather than through force. The jurors appreciated Ascendancy's forward-thinking approach and his emphasis on regional stability. His proposal demonstrated a deep understanding of the interconnectedness of political issues and the importance of building lasting institutions to manage conflicts. The verdict. After each candidate had presented their strategy, the jurors retired to deliberate, carefully weighing the strengths, weaknesses, and potential outcomes of each proposal. It was evident that all four candidates had approached the helium crisis with distinct perspectives, showcasing their unique leadership styles and strategic thinking. Kodo's balanced approach received praise for its careful blend of diplomacy and military readiness. The jurors appreciated his ability to propose a solution that maintained peace while also ensuring the nation's security through a credible deterrent. His strategy was seen as both pragmatic and effective, earning him a green vote from all three jurors. Ruda's bold, aggressive stance sparked debate among the jurors, but ultimately, his clarity of purpose and willingness to take decisive action won their respect. While his approach carried significant risks, the jurors recognized the value in his readiness to defend the nation's interests with unflinching resolve. Ruda was awarded green votes from two of the jurors, securing his advancement to the next round. Kana's multifaceted strategy impressed the jurors with its creativity and depth. His ability to combine diplomacy, economic pressure, and covert operations into a cohesive plan demonstrated a sophisticated understanding of statecraft. The jurors were particularly taken by his innovative use of non-military tools to achieve strategic objectives, and he too received unanimous green votes, marking his as a strong contender moving forward. Ascendancy, despite his thoughtful and forward-looking approach, faced harsher scrutiny. His focus on coalition building and long-term regional stability was seen as a noble endeavor, but the jurors questioned its practicality in the immediate crisis. They felt that Ascendancy's proposal, while visionary, lacked the immediacy needed to address the pressing threat posed by helium. The jurors expressed concern that his strategy might fail to produce the swift, decisive results required in such a volatile situation. As a result, Ascendancy did not receive the necessary green votes to move forward. In the end, Ascendancy was eliminated from the competition, his vision for regional stability acknowledged but deemed insufficient for the current crisis. Kodo, Ruda, and Kana emerged as the top candidates, each earning the right to advance to the second test, an intense evaluation of their military strategy and command capabilities. The first trial had been grueling, testing not only their intellect and political acumen but also their ability to adapt and respond to complex challenges. With Ascendancy's departure, the remaining three candidates knew that the road ahead would only become more challenging as they prepared to face the next phase of their journey toward the coveted title of Admiral. The second competition, marksmanship. With Ascendancy eliminated from the political arena, the remaining three candidates, Kodo, Ruda, and Kana, prepared for the second competition, marksmanship. This round would test their proficiency with firearms, a skill crucial for any leader in their civilization's military. The candidates would need to demonstrate not only their accuracy but also their composure under pressure as they competed in two distinct categories, pistol and rifle shooting. The setting for this test was a state-of-the-art shooting range, equipped with the latest technology to simulate various combat scenarios. The range was divided into two sections, one for pistol shooting at close range and another for rifle shooting at long range. Each candidate was given a series of targets to hit, with points awarded based on accuracy and precision. The atmosphere in the shooting range was tense but focused. Kodo, Ruda, and Kana each approached the line with their pistols, the sleek weapons glinting under the artificial lights. The targets were set at varying distances, designed to challenge their ability to quickly adjust their aim and maintain precision. The pistol round. Kodo stepped up first, his expression calm and steady as he took aim. The silence in the room was palpable as he focused on the first target. With a controlled breath, Kodo squeezed the trigger, sending the first bullet flying downrange. The shot hit the target dead center. Without hesitation, Kodo continued to fire, each shot a precise, calculated movement. When the final shot rang out, Kodo lowered his pistol, his eyes scanning the target board. The score flashed on the screen above, 100 points, a perfect score. The jurors exchanged nods of approval, impressed by Kodo's flawless performance. Next up was Ruda. Known for his aggressive and decisive nature, Ruda approached the pistol round with a mix of focus and intensity. He gripped the pistol firmly, his eyes narrowing as he lined up his first shot. The crack of the gun echoed through the range as Ruda fired rapidly, his shots following one after another in quick succession. While his approach was slightly more forceful than Kodo's, his accuracy was still remarkable. When the last shot was fired, the score appeared, 95 points. Ruda had performed exceptionally well, though not quite matching Kodo's perfect score. Kana was the last to take his position. While he had excelled in the political arena, marksmanship was not his strongest suit. He handled the pistol with care, his movements deliberate but lacking the confidence of his competitors. As he fired his shots, it became clear that his accuracy was inconsistent, with several shots missing the center of the target. When his round concluded, the score was displayed, 85 points. Kana's score was respectable but far behind those of Kodo and Ruda. The rifle round. The competition then shifted to the rifle range, where the candidates were tested on their ability to hit long-range targets with precision. The stakes were high, as this round would determine who would advance to the final phase of the leadership trials. Kodo once again took the lead. He shouldered the rifle, the weapon feeling like an extension of his body as he peered through the scope. The targets were set at various distances, some moving slowly to simulate real combat conditions. Kodo's breathing slowed, his focus narrowing to a pinpoint as he tracked the first target. His finger tightened on the trigger, and the rifle fired with a sharp crack. One by one, Kodo hit each target with near-perfect accuracy. The score flashed on the screen, 98 points. It was an impressive performance, nearly matching his flawless pistol round. Ruda followed, his determination evident in the set of his jaw as he lifted the rifle. He took a deep breath, steadying himself as he prepared to fire. Unlike the pistol round, where his aggressive style had worked in his favor, the rifle required more patience. Ruda adjusted his aim, compensating for distance and movement before firing each shot. His accuracy was commendable, though not as consistent as Kodo's. When the last shot was fired, the score appeared, 96 points. It was a strong showing, but still short of Kodo's mark. Kana was the last to face the rifle challenge. His grip on the weapon was firm, but the hesitation in his movements was evident. As he fired, his shots lacked the precision needed to compete at this level. His score reflected the struggle, 82 points. Kana had given his best effort, but it was clear that he could not match the marksmanship of Kodo and Ruda. With the rifle round concluded, the jurors conferred briefly before making their decision. It was evident that Kodo and Ruda had emerged as the top competitors in this round, their scores placing them far ahead of Kana. Despite her strengths in other areas, Kana's performance in the marksmanship competition had not been sufficient to keep her in the running. The jurors announced the results. Kana was eliminated from the competition, leaving Kodo and Ruda to move on to the final test. The tension between the two remaining candidates was palpable as they prepared for the most challenging phase of the trials, the virtual simulation. The next test, the naval battle simulation. The next test would be the ultimate test of their leadership, strategy, and decision-making under pressure. Kodo and Ruda were led to a high-tech simulation chamber where they would each be given command of a virtual fleet in a high-stakes naval battle. The simulation was designed to be as realistic as possible, replicating the complexities of commanding a fleet in a combat scenario. Their goal, to lead their respective fleets to victory against a formidable enemy force. As they entered the simulation chamber, the environment around them transformed into a vast ocean, with ships of various sizes and capabilities arrayed before them. The simulation was designed to test every aspect of naval warfare, from strategic planning to real-time decision-making. The fleets were evenly matched, and both candidates would need to use every ounce of their training, experience, and intuition to secure victory. Kodo, with his calm and methodical approach, immediately began analyzing the situation. He assessed the positions of both his own fleet and the enemy's, considering factors such as wind direction, sea currents, and the capabilities of each ship. Kodo's strategy was one of careful maneuvering and precise strikes. He ordered his ships to form a defensive perimeter while sending out smaller, faster vessels to probe the enemy's defenses. His goal was to weaken the enemy's forces before committing to a full-scale engagement. Ruda, on the other hand, took a more aggressive stance. He quickly identified the enemy's flagship and directed the bulk of his forces to focus on taking it down. Ruda's plan was to decapitate the enemy's command structure, believing that the fleet would be easier to defeat once their leadership was compromised. He ordered his ships to advance rapidly, using their superior firepower to overwhelm the enemy in a concentrated assault. As the battle unfolded, the simulation presented both candidates with unexpected challenges. Weather conditions worsened, with a storm rolling in that reduced visibility and disrupted communications. Kodo adjusted his strategy accordingly, using the storm to his advantage by launching surprise attacks from the cover of darkness. His fleet moved like a well-oiled machine, each ship playing its part in a coordinated effort to outmaneuver the enemy. Ruda, despite the challenges, maintained his aggressive approach. He pushed his ships forward, driving them hard to maintain the momentum of his assault. His fleet took heavy losses, but Ruda's focus remained on the ultimate goal, the destruction of the enemy flagship. His persistence paid off when, after a fierce exchange of fire, the enemy flagship was finally sunk. The simulation continued, with both candidates adapting to the changing circumstances. Kodo's strategy of attrition began to wear down the enemy's forces, while Ruda's relentless attacks left the enemy reeling. In the end, the simulation was called to a close with both fleets heavily damaged but still operational. The jurors reviewed the outcomes of the simulation, considering not only the final results but also the strategies employed and the leadership qualities demonstrated by each candidate. Kodo's methodical, calculated approach had allowed him to maintain control of the battle, minimizing losses and adapting to changing conditions with precision. Ruda's aggressive, decisive tactics had achieved significant results but at a higher cost, reflecting his willingness to take risks to achieve victory. As the jurors deliberated, Kodo and Ruda stood in silence, each reflecting on the battle they had just fought. They knew that this final test would determine who would continue to go to the next contest to earn the title of Admiral, the highest honor in their civilization's military. The decision would be announced soon, but for now, the two warriors could only wait, their fates resting in the hands of those who had judged their every move. The final battle at the MFC. The journey that had begun with grueling years of training, rigorous tests of skill, and relentless rivalry now led Kodo and Ruda to the final showdown. Their path to this moment had been paved with determination, discipline, and an unyielding desire to prove themselves. And now, with the title of Admiral hanging in the balance, they faced each other for the third time. The venue for this ultimate test was no ordinary battlefield, it was the sacred site of the Military Combat Club, MFC, revered across the primate civilization as the crucible where only the most elite warriors were forged. The MFC was steeped in history, its hallowed grounds having witnessed countless epic battles between the greatest fighters of the land. To stand here was to tread the same path as legends, and today, Kodo and Ruda would carve their names into that storied history. The audience gathered in anticipation, their collective breath held as the final combatants took the stage. The grand arena was a vast, open space, encircled by towering stone walls etched with the names of past champions. Above, the three top guerrillist martial arts masters sat on a raised platform, their faces inscrutable, their eyes sharp and attentive. They were the ultimate arbiters, tasked with judging the performance of the two warriors who had risen to the top of their generation. As Kodo and Ruda stepped into the arena, they were met with a sight that struck both awe and unease into the hearts of the spectators. The two fighters were dressed in simple combat fatigues, devoid of the protective gear that was customary in human combat sports. There were no gloves to cushion the impact of their punches, no mouth guards to protect their teeth, no genital guards to shield their most vulnerable areas. It was a stark reminder that this battle was not just about skill, but about raw, primal strength, a fight where every strike carried the weight of finality. The arena's atmosphere was electric, charged with the tension that only a confrontation of this magnitude could generate. The spectators, consisting of high-ranking officials, military leaders, and the best warriors in the land, watched with rapt attention, their eyes fixed on the two figures who stood at the center of the stage. This was not just a fight, it was a clash of ideologies, a battle that would determine the future leadership of their civilization. Kodo and Ruda faced each other, their expressions hard, their bodies taut with anticipation. They had fought twice before, each time pushing each other to the brink, but neither had been able to claim a decisive victory. This final encounter would settle the score once and for all. The battle begins. The bell rang, a deep, resonant sound that echoed through the arena, signaling the start of the match. Both fighters sprang into action, their movements fluid and precise. Kodo and Ruda were evenly matched in skill and strength, their contrasting styles complementing and challenging each other in equal measure. Kodo, known for his calm and calculated approach, moved with the grace of a seasoned warrior. He advanced on Ruda with measured steps, his fists raised in a defensive stance, his eyes focused and unblinking. He had spent years mastering the art of combat, honing his body and mind to respond instinctively to any threat. His strategy was to wait for Ruda to make the first move, to draw him into overextending himself and then capitalize on any opening that presented itself. Ruda, on the other hand, was all fire and aggression. He wasted no time in launching a barrage of strikes, his fists flying with a speed and force that would have overwhelmed a lesser opponent. Ruda's style was direct and powerful, his blows designed to break through defenses and deliver maximum damage. He moved with a sense of urgency, as if every strike were a test of his own resolve, a battle not just against Kodo, but against the limits of his own strength. Kodo deftly deflected Ruda's initial assault, blocking and dodging the rapid-fire punches with a practiced ease. His movements were economical, conserving energy while keeping Ruda's attacks at bay. But Ruda was relentless, his determination driving him to press the attack, refusing to give Kodo a moment's respite. The two fighters circled each other, their eyes locked in a silent contest of wills. The arena was filled with the sounds of their combat, grunts of exertion, the dull thud of fists meeting flesh, the sharp crack of bones against bones. Each time Ruda advanced, Kodo countered with precision, his strikes aimed to disrupt Ruda's rhythm and force him to reconsider his strategy. But Ruda was undeterred. He knew Kodo's style well, having faced him twice before, and he had learned from each encounter. He began to vary his attacks, throwing in feints and misdirections, forcing Kodo to adapt on the fly. Ruda's strikes grew more unpredictable, his movements more fluid as he sought to break through Kodo's defenses. For several intense minutes, the two fighters traded blows, each testing the other's limits. Kodo managed to land a solid punch to Ruda's ribs, a blow that would have felled a lesser opponent, but Ruda absorbed the impact and retaliated with a vicious uppercut that caught Kodo under the chin, sending him staggering back. The audience erupted in a collective gasp as Kodo stumbled, but he quickly regained his footing, his expression unreadable as he wiped a trickle of blood from his lip. The strike had rattled him, but it had also reignited the fire within him. Kodo knew that Ruda was pushing him harder than ever before, and he responded in kind, ramping up his own offensive. Kodo moved in close, launching a series of quick, precise jabs aimed at Ruda's midsection. Ruda parried the blows, but Kodo's speed and accuracy were beginning to take their toll. Ruda's breathing grew heavier, his movements slightly less sharp as Kodo pressed the attack, seeking to wear him down. But Ruda was far from finished. He pivoted sharply, delivering a spinning back fist that connected with the side of Kodo's head. The force of the blow sent Kodo reeling, and Ruda seized the opportunity to launch a flurry of strikes, each one delivered with the intent to end the fight. Kodo fought back with everything he had, blocking and countering as best he could, but the relentless onslaught from Ruda was pushing him to his limits. The two fighters were locked in a brutal exchange, their bodies battered and bruised, their breaths coming in ragged gasps. Each strike, each movement, was a testament to their skill and determination, as they fought not just for victory, but for the very essence of their being. The moment of truth. As the battle raged on, the energy in the arena seemed to shift. The audience, once vocal in their support for their favorite fighter, had fallen silent, completely absorbed in the spectacle before them. The martial arts masters watched intently, their eyes narrowing as they analyzed every move, every decision made by the fighters below. Then, without warning, Ruda surged forward with a burst of energy, his fists flying in a powerful combination that drove Kodo back toward the edge of the arena. Ruda's strikes were ferocious, each one carrying the weight of his determination to emerge victorious. Kodo was forced into a defensive position, blocking and dodging as best he could, but Ruda's onslaught was relentless. In a moment of desperation, Kodo saw an opening, a brief window where Ruda's guard was down. Summoning the last of his strength, Kodo lunged forward, delivering a powerful straight punch aimed directly at Ruda's chest. The blow connected with a resounding impact, and for a split second, Ruda faltered, the wind knocked out of him. But Ruda, driven by sheer willpower, did not go down. He responded with a devastating counterattack, a hammer-like blow that caught Kodo on the side of the head. The impact sent Kodo crashing to the ground, his vision swimming as he struggled to remain conscious. The world around him blurred, and the sounds of the arena faded into the background. As Kodo lay on the cold stone floor, his body aching and exhausted, he felt his consciousness slipping away. In that fleeting moment, the chaos of the battle was replaced by a vision. Durika's face, radiant and smiling, appeared before him. She seemed to glow with a gentle warmth, her eyes filled with kindness and love. It was as if she were reaching out to him, offering him comfort in his moment of despair. Kodo felt a surge of peace wash over him, the pain in his body momentarily forgotten. Durika's presence was a beacon of hope, a reminder of everything he was fighting for. But just as quickly as the vision appeared, it began to fade, and Kodo felt himself being pulled back into the harsh reality of the arena. With a jolt, Kodo's eyes snapped open. The roar of the crowd flooded back into his ears, and the sharp pain in his body reminded him of where he was. Ruda was standing a few feet away, breathing heavily, his own body battered and bruised. The fight wasn't over yet. Kodo forced himself to his feet, his legs trembling from the effort. He locked eyes with Ruda, who was equally exhausted but still determined to continue the fight. They both knew that this was the final stretch, that the next few moments would decide the outcome of the battle. The two warriors advanced toward each other once more, their movements slower now, but no less fierce. Every punch, every kick was delivered with the last reserves of their strength. They were beyond technique now. This was a battle of pure willpower, of who could endure just a little bit longer. Ruda threw a powerful right hook that Kodo barely managed to deflect, countering with a low kick aimed at Ruda's legs. Ruda stumbled but regained his balance, responding with a knee strike that caught Kodo in the ribs, driving the air from his lungs. Kodo staggered back, gasping for breath, but he refused to go down. Summoning the last of his energy, he launched a desperate series of strikes, each one aimed at Ruda's already weakened body. Ruda blocked most of them, but one punch slipped through his guard, landing squarely on his jaw and sending him reeling. For a moment, it seemed as though Ruda might fall, but he caught himself at the last second, standing his ground. He glared at Kodo, his eyes burning with the same determination that had driven him throughout the entire competition. Kodo and Ruta stood there, both on the brink of collapse, yet neither willing to give up. The audience was on the edge of their seats, the tension in the air so thick it was almost suffocating. This was the moment everyone had been waiting for, the final showdown between two of the greatest warriors of their generation. The final bell. And then, as if on cue, the bell rang, signaling the end of the match. The sound reverberated through the arena, a deep, resonant tone that marked the conclusion of this epic battle. Both fighters collapsed to the ground, their bodies completely spent. The audience erupted in applause, their cheers echoing off the stone walls as they honored the incredible display of skill, strength, and endurance they had just witnessed. Kodo lay on the cold floor, his vision fading in and out as exhaustion finally took hold. His body ached with a pain that seemed to radiate from every muscle, every bone. He could hear the distant sound of the crowd, but it felt far away, as if he were hearing it through a thick fog. For a brief moment, Kodo felt the warmth of Durika's smile again, a fleeting image that brought him a sense of peace. He had fought with everything he had, and now, as his consciousness slipped away, he found solace in the thought that he had given his all. But the fight was not yet over. With a sudden rush of adrenaline, Kodo forced himself to stay awake. His eyes snapped open, and he was back in the arena, back in the reality of the battle. He could see Ruta lying on the ground a few feet away, equally exhausted, his chest heaving as he tried to catch his breath. The outcome of the battle was still uncertain. Both fighters were bruised, battered, and barely able to move, but neither had been decisively defeated. The echoes of their confrontation would reverberate throughout the annals of primate history, a testament to the indomitable spirit of these two warriors. The three guerrillist martial arts masters stood from their platform, their expressions unreadable as they observed the scene before them. They had witnessed every strike, every moment of the battle, and now they would have to make their final judgment. But as the audience held its breath, waiting for the verdict, one thing was clear: whether Kodo or Ruta emerged as the victor, both had proven themselves worthy of the title of Admiral. Their battle was a culmination of years of training, sacrifice, and perseverance, a testament to the strength of their characters and the depth of their resolve. As the masters prepared to deliver their decision, the arena fell silent, the air thick with anticipation. The final chapter of this epic confrontation was about to be written, and the future of the primate civilization would be shaped by the outcome of this legendary battle.